So today, my guest is Jess Stevenson. She is the owner operator of Construct Tiny Homes. And as soon as you hear the word tiny homes these days, of course, you think, yes, yes, tiny homes. I think there's probably very few buyers out there who have not at least considered this option, considering today's market, considering recent legislation that has kind of opened the door a little more for tiny homes. So really happy to have Jess with us, and we'll start out just by just sort of an open-ended question about what you guys do.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Thank you for having me. That is an excellent question, and I do like to clarify this like right off the bat because we're named Construct Tiny Homes. Tiny homes kind of comes with this vague definition, right? People think like, oh, tiny homes on wheels. Is it like a year? Is it something I can buy on Amazon that comes in a box? So like what we're building, at least at Construct Tiny Homes, is real estate. We only build on foundations, and the size of our homes are typically between 600 and 1,000 square feet. So not super, super tiny. We're not talking about, 200 square feet and you got to hide stuff under the steps kind of thing. But we're talking about a space that's small, functional, affordable, and kind of adds value to the property. So basically what we're building is accessory dwelling units. That's the only thing that we build. We're not taking on other projects, doing one-off decks or bathroom or kitchen remodels. We are only building small homes. Majority of the time, those are in the form of accessory dwelling units for multi-generational families.
It's great to hear you talk about the actual, what it is that you all do, because, I'm not sure about the clinical definition of tiny home, but what I do know is that my wife and I, as I mentioned earlier, have been in the buying market for a little while, and tiny homes crossed our mind. And in our heads, it was these extreme kind of radical designs that you might see on HGTV or elsewhere that, as you said, we have to figure out every possible square inch of where we're going to storage. And eventually that kind of was overwhelming. So to think, yeah, that's not realistic. But what you're saying is that that size doesn't have to be. I mean, 1,000 square feet is legitimate space.
Oh yeah, for sure. Many apartments, people are in our, 700 square feet in their two bedroom or 900 square feet in their three bedroom. So you could fit a decent amount of functional space within that 600 to 1,000 square foot range. And the reason that we only build that size is because that's the size that the majority of towns allow if you are building as an accessory to an existing single family home and you're building for mom or dad or maybe adult kids or whatever the case may be.
Okay. So I know that you are taking this information on the road. You've shared it with our members, and that's what we're doing here today as well, sharing it with our members. So what is the most important thing for them to know in terms of information that they need to convey to their clients?
Yeah, I love presenting to realtors because you guys ask the best questions, right? You know what information to ask. You're out there, you're on the front lines, you are talking to homeowners every single day. And you guys are the types of people that we want to connect with, right? Because we're building for families, you're working with families, you're helping us try to find solutions, housing solutions for families. A lot of what we're running into is, maybe mom and dad want to downsize, but they can't, there's no inventory for them to go, or they don't want an HOA, or they don't want a mortgage that's going to be more expensive than the current one they have for their big house that they bought in the 90s. It's just, we're in a very weird time right now, kind of a perfect storm with inventory, interest rates, and just affordability in general and the prices of homes. So that's why we exist as a solution. My family personally was in this exact same spot. My mother-in-law had lived with us for 10 years and the kids got older. So now they're young adults and they're not affording a house anytime soon. So now we're all growing and the house is staying the same size and we're like, oh, we need a solution. So an accessory dwelling unit was the right solution for us. And through that process, we kind of learned like, wow, this was before the new law, which we'll get to. But there's a lot of moving parts when you're talking about an accessory dwelling unit. It's very specific what you're building and what you're permitting and what goes with that. So we wanted to create a company that kind of was all inclusive. That process was beginning to end, turnkey. You have this idea of you need the space and enter Construct, and we take you all the way through to moving mom in. We say just all you gotta do is bring your bed. So that's where we are. That's where we are today. And so we really, really know like what your members need to know out in the field. The three biggest things that we're seeing people ask. We have frequently asked questions on our website. By the way, visit it anytime, constructtinyhomes.com. And those are super helpful. But there's a few recurring ones that come up all the time that realtors can know the answers to, like right off the top of their heads, and just be the expert in the field in the moment to help service their client. The biggest one we see is size. What size ADU can I build? Or actually, let me back up. Size is one of them. First question, can I build an ADU? Obviously, the answer to that right now is yes. The new law, House Bill 577, got passed last July. It went into effect immediately. That states that you can build an attached accessory dwelling unit, like completely combined, interior access to the home, or detached, just standalone right in the backyard or the side yard by right, which means we're no longer having to go sit in front of conditional, planning boards for conditional use permit or a special exception or asking for permission. These are just now allowed by right. So if somebody asks you in the field, can I put on an accessory dwelling unit? If you're standing at a single family home in a residential district, the answer is yes. And of course, with any real estate, there's like a caveat, right? Like a yes, but. So you're going to say yes, but we're just going to make sure that you meet the building setbacks. Obviously, you don't want to be encroaching on your neighbor, which I think most realtors know anyways. So that's going to be top, for sure, far and away, number one question, can I build an ADU? These do not apply, and this is important for realtors to know. Accessory dwelling units do not apply to multifamily homes. So if you have a duplex or triplex and you're thinking, I'm going to generate more income, I'm going to put an ADU in the backyard, time out. Not to say you can't add another unit, it's not going to be called an ADU. It's going to be something totally different. So that's a good kind of high level fact for realtors to know too about accessory dwelling units. So size is the next one. And then they ask, great, I can build an ADU here. Well, what size? Well, your first answer is going to be, let's check with the town. But majority of the time, they're falling somewhere between, I'd say 800 and 1,000 square feet. What the new law, House Bill 577, specifies is that the town cannot make the maximum size of the ADU less than 750. So a town can't come in and say, you can build an ADU, but it can only be 700 square feet. Not the case. So we're seeing some towns that are at that low end that are at 750, which is kind of a bummer, because 2 bedrooms is a little bit tight in 750. Vast majority of the towns we're seeing are somewhere between 800 and 1,000 square feet.
But it has to be 750 or more.
It has to be 750 or more. Some towns even go way higher, and they do a percentage of the gross living area. So you're not going to know right off the bat, depending on, you're in Londonderry, you don't know, specifically you can build this size. No, great answer is probably around 800 to 1,000 square feet. Let's check with the town. And then a caveat to that too, that your members should probably know, is that because this is a new law, it just got passed last year, what happened was in March, so 2 months ago now, when the towns did their local voting, they voted in the new ordinance to match the state law. So if you go ahead and you go to the website and you pull that long list of zoning, it's 200-page document, right? All the zoning ordinance, and you search up accessory dwelling unit and it pops up. That's likely the old zoning ordinance. So what you're going to be looking for is an addendum or an amendment somewhere posted with that zoning, because it just went through a couple months ago. Worst case scenario, give the planning board a call, the planning department at the town a call, give us a call. We'll help you navigate that. It's pretty easy to figure out. This is pretty high on the radar for a lot of towns, so they're very willing to help out, as is our team. So you can certainly find the information you need with a quick phone call or search. And then the third question, because we're on limited time here, but I do a full training on this, and we have lots of frequently asked questions. But the third question that is far and away the most asked is, but now I have to redo my septic system. Here we are in New Hampshire, right? Majority of actually our builds that we do are for homes that are serviced by private septic systems.
Okay.
The answer to that is no, not necessarily. We don't always redo the septic system. What you're gonna say is, if somebody says, oh, I wanna do an accessory dwelling unit, but I don't wanna have to redo my septic, so I'm not gonna do it. Well, hold on. You don't necessarily have to install a whole brand new septic system. You definitely have to get a new septic design. That's something that our team handles as part of our process. It's one of those moving parts that you're you need the expert for to come in, do the test pit, things like that. But the answer to the question, do I need to install a new septic system, is no. You very well might not have to. Unless families want to, or the system is already 40 years old and they're I'm doing this big project anyways, might as well bite the bullet and do it all at the same time, then they'll do it. But for the most part, the answer is not necessarily, but you do have to get a new septic design. We will not get your ADU permit without that septic design.
Okay. Now, this question is probably very obvious, and I may, as not really even need to ask it, but have you seen an uptick? I mean, and that again sounds probably a little silly considering all the pieces that we've talked about, especially the inventory slash affordability issue, and with the new legislation, more attractive. But is there some way to quantify that in terms of the interest, the number of calls that you have gotten?
I know, right? Yeah, so we definitely saw an uptick in terms of quantifying it. I don't know the exact number,
Sure.
but we do. I can tell you we've been doing this training, and it's like a packed drum every time we do it. Realtors want to know about it. They need to know about it. It's a great option. Even if you go to a listing appointment and they decide, you know what, we can't list. It's not going to make sense. Then you have this other tool in your tool belt to be like, let's talk about an accessory dwelling unit then, that maybe that does make sense for you. And it's like this light bulb moment for the family, and you're the hero. You came up with this great, help them come up with this great solution, and it just works. It creates a great legacy. So yeah, there's been an uptick in both the inquiries from the community and the inquiries from the real estate community.
Okay. And I don't think we actually mentioned how long you guys have been doing this.
Yeah, so we've started up in 2023. And the
Okay.
new law passed in 2025. So we were up and running for a couple of years before that new law
Yeah,
passed.
kind of perfect timing.
Yeah.
I would think, yeah. Okay, and finally, let's talk a little bit about pricing. Obviously, there are variables, but when we're talking about, you say a pretty common size is in the 800 to 1,000 square foot range. What are we looking at?
So all-in pricing for a new construction build like this. So first I want to preface this by saying, which a lot of your members probably already know, the larger you build, that price per square foot average is going to go down, right? Because you have these big rooms, you have these extra bedrooms that don't have those high ticket plumbing, electrical, fixtures in them. They're just blank space. So they drive that price per square foot down. The smaller you get, your price per square foot actually goes up. It's like buying in bulk, right? You go to Costco
Sure.
and you buy 50 of these things. They're going to be a little cheaper than if you go to the gas station and you buy one. So we like to use that analogy. It's good for people to kind of wrap their heads around. So for an all-inclusive build for a smaller home under 1,000 square feet, right now you can probably expect anywhere from $350 upwards of $500 per square foot. It's just going to depend. There's so many variables, right? And I talked to a lot of other contractors, a lot of design build firms, and they say no such thing as price per square foot. For that reason, there's too many variables. But in general, what we're seeing families design and build is usually falling in that high 300, low 400 per square foot range. For us, that includes all of your soft costs, like the architect. You need a full set of construction documents to go and get your permit for this, and this is what an architect needs to put together. So that's included in our process. It's included the septic design. If the unit's attached or we have a clear span of a certain distance, all that engineering work is also included. We do the permitting services and stuff for the families, so they don't have to worry about that unless they really want to come with us to town hall to drop off the paperwork and communicate. They're welcome to do that, but so we handle all of that stuff too for them. So just know that the build itself, 350 plus, depending on what you design, and then you're going to have those soft costs of the architect and engineer and stuff.
Okay, and the foundation?
Foundation's included in all that. Yeah,
It is okay.
That's
So
foundation's
the
included. Yep.
site work is the site work and foundation.
For
Oh,
us.
great. Okay.
Yep. Yep. For how we build. Yeah, that's a great question actually, because we are building real estate, like I mentioned in the beginning. We're gonna assume when we rattle off a price like that, we're gonna make a bunch of assumptions to get to that point, and we're gonna assume that, like, it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of the people are gonna fall in that. 20% maybe are gonna be way higher or way lower or something, those outliers. So for us, we assume that, yes, we're digging the hole, we're doing the site work, we're pouring the concrete, it's a regular foundation, we're doing 4-foot frost walls. It's a tiny home, but it's a big project when it's in your backyard. It feels really big. There's big equipment and everything. So we do end up with a crawl space, a 4-foot crawl space. So something, you're ducking down, walking in, but it's nice and clean and dry. There's a cement floor. Your utilities are down there. You have access to plumbing. Your floor is insulated. And then we give you a bulkhead access around the back so you can get in from the outside only. And it's just great for extra storage, because when you're downsizing, it can be a little overwhelming to think like, oh, I'm going from 3,000 square feet to 900. Where's all my stuff gonna go? But that's a great space for seasonal stuff, patio furniture, things like that.
Yep. Okay. So great information. Where can folks find you? I think you mentioned the website earlier, and then anything else you want to add?
Yeah, so you can find us at constructtinyhomes.com. We also have a pretty cool Realtor partner program. We'd encourage you to sign up for that. We give you a special link that you get so you can refer friends or family if you'd like. We're happy to help you with any co-branding, marketing. We have a great site plan software where we can pop in an ADU so you can see that it will fit in the setbacks. So that's pretty neat. We're happy to share that with our realtor partners across the state. We do have open houses occasionally, so you can come visit our product, and we're happy to do, realtor exclusive open houses. Come in, ask us questions, make sure you're really comfortable talking about this type of build, whether it's with us or anybody else, but just talking about this type of construction moving forward for your clients. So that's the best way. And we're also on Instagram and Facebook. If you just search up Construct Tiny Homes, we try to be really active with posting, like the day to day, because people don't build a house every day. And yeah, it's a small house, but it's still a big project. So we just want to make sure people understand what they're getting into. So it's helpful when they see like a man standing in a hole and the hole is, up here, and it's like, oh, okay, wow, that's a big project. So definitely follow us on social media. We're happy to engage with you guys there too.
Sounds great. And I think we'll just go back a little bit. I didn't ask about financing. So
Yes.
tell our members what they could share with their clients about the financing process.
Yeah, so if you have clients that are maybe considering selling, maybe they think it's not right, or they have a lot of times what we see is mom and dad have the house, right, that they raise the family in. They build the ADU for themselves. They move into the ADU, and then their child with their family sells their property and moves into the main house. So now everybody's condensed and they kind of have their, financing, their childcare, their travel buddies all in one under one roof. And it makes like a lot of economic sense for people to do that. So we do see that kind of shift happen pretty frequently. So with that being said, we do see people use the equity in their home as a home equity line of credit or home equity loan, however their banker wants to structure that. But there's also a pretty awesome opportunity now that banks are coming up with, and these programs are only about, I'd say 12 to 18 months old, some of them. It's an ADU mortgage. And so what this product allows the family to do is say they have the home that they bought during COVID and they have a 3% interest rate, right? They don't want to ditch that for a construction loan at a 7% interest rate, nor should they. So these banks are realizing this, that people are not refinancing out of their 2 and 3% mortgage rates. So they're offering this other product that actually takes a second position lien to the existing mortgage. So you kind of have the big mortgage and then the tiny mortgage, right? The baby mortgage. But those are only applicable if you're building an accessory dwelling unit. So that's kind of cool because these are it's such a great value add. And banks are recognizing that. So they're happy to even take a second position lien, which blows my mind because they
Yeah.
know they're going to recoup the value.
Right.